A number of women were sexually assaulted in Tahrir Square in Cairo, Egypt, during the inauguration of the new president of Egypt, and one of these victims was caught on video. In the video, the woman has her clothes ripped off and she has blood on her. Some of the men, who I assume are police officers dressed in white, seem to be trying to get her out of the crowd. Now, this is not the first time that this has happened in Tahrir Square. There have been at least 2 female reporters who have been assaulted on camera in the square since the Egyptian president was forced to resign during the Arab Spring. This seems to be a problem in Egypt as a whole, and it has been for some time. A few years ago, I read a book about women in Egypt, and this was before the President Mubarak was overthrown, and this book was talking about how women were regularly sexually assaulted, groped, or digitally penetrated in crowded places in Egyptian cities, such as on buses or public transit. Now, some people in North America complain about so-called rape culture, but the truth is rape culture does not really exist in the mainstream of North American society. Occasionally, you have authorities giving some people a free rape pass, or not doing anything about some men committing sexual assault. So, for example, you have Jerry Sandusky in Penn State. A lot of people knew, the people in the school, apparently maybe the police, prosecutors, they knew that he was raping young boys. But they didn't do anything about it because he was the coach of the, or assistant coach of the football team, which was very prestigious. And then the same thing happens, or may happen in some cases with, say, high school football players. Again, they're high status because they're playing a popular sport. So then the authorities, the police, and everybody, the schools, they don't do anything if they're accused of sexual assault. They might try to cover it up, but for the most part, rape is not socially acceptable in North America. Even criminals don't like rapists in North America. So even basically ghetto criminals or prisoner people in jail, they don't like rapists in North America. Women in North America can walk around in public with their breasts and butts hanging out. They can wear skin-tight clothes, pants that show their butts, pants that show their breasts, all kinds of skimpy clothing, and nobody touches them. You can walk down the street when it's warm and see a lot of women in very, very revealing clothing, very tight clothes, and you see men look at them, maybe even sometimes make cat calls or those kinds of things, but you really don't see men touching them in North America. You don't hear about women being sexually assaulted in North America in public places by large groups of men. You don't hear about women being sexually assaulted on the 4th of July in Times Square, for example, or any major city like so Tahrir Square in Cairo, I guess that's the major public square in the city. If you look at the equivalent of Tahrir Square in let's say a city in North America or even Western Europe, or so say Times Square in New York City, when people gather in those areas, men and women gather in those areas for celebrations or events, you don't hear about women being sexually assaulted. So that shows that there's not a real rape culture. So you could look at say Mardi Gras in New Orleans, where there's a reputation that women show their breasts. You don't hear about, at least, well, I'm not sure if they there don't seem to be a lot of sexual assaults at those events. You can look at, say, Caravana in Toronto, Canada. You don't hear about sexual assaults, even though you have women who are scantily clad. You could go talk about any other kind of events, spring break, all those spring break events where you have young women, young men, say women on the beach wearing skimpy clothing, bikinis and so on. You don't hear about women being sexually assaulted by large groups of men. So if you want to talk about rape culture, you really need to look abroad. You can't look in North America because there isn't really a rape culture in North America. The real rape cultures are places where large groups of men feel that it's acceptable to sexually assault women in public. So in North America, most sexual assaults will occur in, say, private areas. You would have maybe, let's say, a group of men maybe sexually assault a drunk girl at a party or an unconscious girl at a party. Or you could have occasionally, there's lone serial rapist type people. But that's more of an individual thing, where if a lone serial rapist gets arrested, then the rape stop. Whereas in somewhere like Egypt, it seems like there's a whole culture of men sexually assaulting women, so that if they could arrest 10 men for sexual assault, but the sexual assaults continue because it's just the whole culture. It's not just one individual doing it, the way it would be in North America. Occasionally you may have a man and a wife or girlfriend working together to commit sexual assaults, like Paul Bernardo and his wife Carla Homolka. You could have maybe 2 men working together in committing sexual assaults, but you rarely see a large group of them, a large group of men going out and gang raping women that they don't know in North America. You rarely see that. I really can't think of an example of that happening. There may be examples, but I really can't think of any. So rape culture is not something that really exists in North America, whereas it may exist in Egypt, it may exist in South Africa, it may exist in India, maybe it may exist in Pakistan, but it does not exist in North America.